Hey, this is Yasuki Wolf, and you're watching the brand new manga workshop series. I spent over 2 million yen learning all the ins and outs of how to become a mangaka here in Tokyo, Japan, so that you don't have to. So, as you may or may not be aware, this is a series that I started probably over a year ago, and I've been on a very prolonged hiatus, like not putting out videos, and I apologize vehemently for that. But as many of you may have noticed have heard from my other videos, there was a period of time that I had to focus on the transitioning of my life away from, well shifting the focus of my life from becoming a manga artist to becoming a game designer. And I could say that that shift worked, and I am now working professionally as a full-time game designer. I am the lead game planner at Tsukishima Factory, also known as Moonisland Factory, a small mobile game company here in Tokyo. And if you're interested in learning about the games that we're working on right now and when they'll be coming out and stuff like that, I'll put a link to our Facebook fan page and whatever down below. So, anyways, moving on to the topic at hand, which is manga and my experiences doing that. So, first off, I'm saying the best way that I could probably go about doing these videos is I think I want to just show you. See, during those 2 years that I was pursuing a career as a manga artist, I drew over 100 pages of manga, and I went to various publishers, Jump, Young Jump, magazine, all these different places. But so I'm thinking the best way I could probably relay to you the information that I learned during that time would be to basically just take those mangas that I drew, and I'll introduce you to them. I'll introduce you to them one by one, like in order of when they were made, and I'll kind of like show you basically what I was doing, and then that'll be basically one video where I just introduce you to the manga that I did, like the first manga I did in my manga school or whatnot, and then the next one after that and so forth. And then the next video right after that, I'll critique the hell out of that manga that I showed you, and I'll tell you all the things I did wrong. That is to say, all the things that they told me when I took those mangas to places like Jump or Young Jump or wherever it was that I took that particular manga. And I'll try to go into the details of that. And then in that, while going through that critique, if you find things that are unclear that you want to have more explanation of, then please just go put it in the comments, and then I'll go through. I'll go make separate videos about certain topics, like if you want to know more about how to use screen toning, or if you want to learn how to better control your ink flow, or whatever random thing it is that you might be kind of interested in. Just put that in the comments, and if there's enough people interested in it, then yeah, maybe I'll do a separate video on. So that's the first like little thing that I could say, is that I am not a professional manga artist at the moment. I am a professional game designer living in Japan, so I am kind of within the same system, as games and manga are very closely related in Japan, like more so than you would imagine. But so for just our short introduction to this manga workshop, I want to deal with a question that I've gotten on a lot of my old videos that have come up numerous times, and that is the age-old question of traditional versus digital, or as you say in Japan, digital versus analog. So you may hear me say analog from time to time in my videos because I'm just so used to using that word. I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's been a while since I've been in an English-speaking country, but I'm pretty sure that you don't really use analog that way generally in English to refer to doing something by hand, but that is generally how it's called in Japan. If you say analog games, that means something like board games, tabletop RPGs, that stuff. Those are analog games. And when you talk about analog manga, you're talking about manga that is drawn by hand. So when you say, are you going to do it digitally or are you going to do analog? That's something that comes up a lot here, and the analog is what the word they use to describe, I guess, what we would say traditional style. And so it's a tough question. I have a couple examples here that I want to show you in a second, but just first off, I'll just say my basic thoughts about it. So basically, it's a tough call. It's a really tough call, because I've done a lot of both, and I think that if you're kind of considering which way to go, you really should try both. I would say in particular for manga, you want to have some basic understanding of how it's done analog before you try to go digital, just because I think, I'm not sure if you could hear that, but there's people going around my house right now chanting. But yeah, if you hear that, that's just regular Japan background noise. But so anyways, what was I saying? Damn, they're getting louder. So like first off, I've done both, and I've done a fairly good amount of both, so I could kind of speak to it from my own experience. And I say that there's a lot that you can do by hand, with analog, in the analog manner, that you can't really replicate on the computer to this day. It's the feeling of it, I guess. Like especially when I do a lot of brush work, and you can kind of feel the bristles of the brush pulling against the paper, and you can kind of manipulate that. And in the computer, it's more calculated. So you do a stroke, and then the computer calculates what it thinks you want. So I'd say there definitely are some advantages in doing it by hand. But now, talking about digitally, there's a hell of a lot of advantages to doing it digitally. One thing is digital work generally is going to be a lot faster. Not always. I mean, for one, if you don't have like, this is a Cintiq. This is I could draw directly on this, so this makes it a lot easier for me. If you don't have stuff like this, then doing line work by hand might actually be faster for you. So even in that case, the one thing that I would say that I generally will almost always say that the digital is going to be a little bit better at, or faster I should say, is your tone work. Doing tone work by hand is pretty damn annoying. I can imagine there's some people that actually really like it maybe, but for me, just the whole, you have to take a piece of paper, you have to take that tone, you have a razor that you cut it out with, and then you kind of like shave different parts of it off, and then you put another tone on top of that, and like basically what you could do in a computer in like a few seconds is a pretty big project when you're doing it with by hand, But I don't know, there's other things too about that where they arguably it's easier to do tone work badly on a computer, because it's so easy that you can really mess it up. you could do it too much. You can make it look kind of unnatural, and there's a lot of issues there too. But that's enough of my general ideas about it. So let's go ahead and take a look at these examples I have here and see what we can gouge from that. So here we have two different pages that I drew back in the day. This one on the left is from Akazukin, which was a sort of retold story of the whole Red Riding Hood type thing. And then on the right we have Lycanthropy, which is a sort of werewolf story. They both have very similar elements going on in the pages, so I figured this would be a good way to compare. But you may be able to notice that one of these is done digitally, and one of these is done analog. And I'll give you a second to try to guess which one it is. How many people say this is the digital? Okay, how many people say this is the digital? Right, if you said this is digital, then you were correct. Yes, this indeed here is the digital work, while this over here on the right is my analog work. This one I did at the end of my first year, like going into the second year. I really took my time on this one. I did it all almost 100% with brush work for the inking, and there's actually not even any tone work in this, because I wanted to do enough inking to make it so that I didn't even need to have tone, because I really didn't like using tone in by hand. So, and I think I did a good job with this. This is actually probably one of my favorites of all the ones I did. And then on this side we have this one is digital. I believe everything on this page is digital. I think everything on this page is digital. Actually, this one I did half digitally and half traditionally, because I was sort of working at home and at school. And when I was at school and I didn't have a computer at the ready, I would work traditionally, and then when I got home, I would use digitally. So it's kind of a mismatch of them both. And it's kind of interesting that it does kind of blend together pretty seamlessly. Like if you go look at the other pages, actually even on this page, I think there might be some. No, I'm pretty sure this is all digital. But anyways, like some of the other pages, like you'll see digital work and traditional work side by side, and it doesn't really stand out at all. So you definitely can go either way depending on your style. But you may notice that there are some slight differences here. Let's see if I can bring this up a little bit bigger on this side. Here we go. Okay. So you may be able to notice that there's some differences with the way the strokes turn out. And these are both drawn by me, so that you know the style is going to be pretty similar and whatnot. And like you can even see, like if you look at this this face here and this face here, I mean, there's very similar elements. These could very much be within the same story in the same world. So, but you may be able to notice that there definitely is there is more of a crisp, like definedness to the digital work. As you might see here, like all these lines are very crisp and defined. I mean, it is a very chaotic scene, but you could pretty distinctively tell that this is a black line. This was a white. This was a line that I used to erase, and I put a tone on top of that and stuff. While as over here, like this is it's a little bit softer, and it's not quite as crisp. It's more blended into each other. You're gonna be able to tell. Like this here, it has a very, I'd like to say soft, or perhaps even more organic feel to it. And I think, yeah, that's probably the best way to say it. It's a lot more organic. Like you can definitely, it feels more atmospheric, while this is more like very like crisp, like graphic type of feel. So and you can see like the lines generally are going to be a little. It's like here you have that sort of like hand done touch where like the lines have slight variation of their width and so forth, while this is pretty much straight stark, like jump, 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 jump. The lines just pretty much right there. But the basic style, it works either way. I mean, you still see the basic elements are there, you know. And like I said, the tone work is a lot easier digital, as here pretty much doing this tone is as easy as using a bucket tool in Photoshop, basically. I don't know how many of you have used Manga Studio or Clip Studio Pro or whatnot, but I highly recommend it if you're doing tone work, because it is as simple as just like taking a loop tool and sort of like defining these areas, and then after you got that defined, you just click on tone, and you could like pick what percentage you want it to be of black spots and what percent of white area and everything. If you want it to be linear, if you want it to be dotted, or however you want, and then it will just fill it in for you. It's extremely easy. As opposed to if you're doing it the analog way, you're going to have to go to the store. You're gonna have to buy various types of tone. You buy a page of one or the other. You know, actually, let's go back to the regular camera, and I'll show you exactly what goes on when it comes to doing tone. If you have any other questions about this, let me know. But I think just to sum this up real quick, I think you really can go either way. I personally think I kind of like the way that this side looks better. It just feels more, I don't know what the word is, but it just feels, yeah, more organic. It feels more alive to me, while this is very flat. And you know, even with the same basic type of thing is going on, like this, just I feel so much more energy here than I do here, you know. And I think a lot of that is because of that hand-done touch. That being said, however, I do tend to nowadays work almost exclusively in the digital realm, and that is mostly just because, well, one, if you take a look, well, if you looked at my apartment, you could probably notice that I don't have a lot of space, and it's hard to kind of like make the space to work traditionally, because you have to really have like a really dedicated area to do it at, which I used to have back when I was doing this one. When I was working on this every day, I had a very specific area that I worked on it. But I don't really have that anymore, so so I don't really have that ready for me to do, so it's not as convenient. And also, it's just so much faster, because when you do analog, you're gonna have to eventually like scan it into a computer, perhaps, to like put it up on the internet and stuff. And if you're doing tone work on there, you're gonna have to import it into a different software, And there's just so much more steps involved as opposed to digital. You're already digital, so if you just start digital and end digital, it's a very smooth transition the whole way through. So but that being said, once again, I keep like going back and forth. But I would say also that I've been doing almost completely digital in terms of doing illustration, and part of that being that when you're doing illustration, a lot of the line work is going to be drowned out and by your color. I should probably define what I mean by illustration, because I think a lot of times when people say manga in outside of Japan, they're referring to a style and not an actual like medium. But I'm referring more to the medium of working in these black and white comics with this very specific defined rule sets that you have to deal with when you're working in Japan. And you may notice that I don't have the very popular like moe style. And if you don't know what moe style is, it's basically what's popular now right now with like a very cute young, like cute girls that look very young and are often put in semi-sexual situations or whatever. I don't know, if examples like K-On! And stuff like that, I don't really have that particular style. But and some people might say that, well, that's not the manga style. And well, yeah, maybe it's not that, but manga is more than just a style, it's a medium. And this is how I draw. So that's another thing about my videos. I'm not going to be talking so much about this is the style of manga. I'm telling you about the rules of how to do manga. So you can take these rules that I'm teaching you and draw it in whatever style you like. If you do moe style, like I don't know what people really call moe style outside of Japan, but it's like, you know, you're kind of like cute Akihabara type stuff. Then go for it, do that. And if you want to do more of a realistic like style, like Gantsu, like Berserk, or the Blade of the Immortal, or that type of style, then do that style. You know, they're all manga. So I think it's kind of counterproductive to have a huge argument about what style is manga and what isn't. But that is a video for another day. I'm getting off topic. I do that often, and I apologize. But so anyways, what I was saying is that when I do illustration, alright, yeah, so like this is an illustration I did pretty recent. I actually just did like last Friday. And you can see that when you do something like this, a lot of the line work is going to be lost in the midst of all the color that's above it. And so I don't think it's that important to really stress too much about how your lines are coming out when you're going to be painting over anyways. So for this type of illustration stuff, I feel pretty comfortable using the computer. And I'm probably going to do a video on this coming up soon, possibly even next, just because I haven't really gotten into the digital side of things so much, even though I've done a number of videos showing the different analog tools that you can use as a mangaka. So I probably might do a video where I just show you this how to do an illustration like this and the basic process involved with this. That might actually be my next video. I'm not sure. But so anyways, so this is the illustration I did, and so in this case I don't feel like I really have to do digital. But if I were to go back and start doing manga again, where you don't have any color, and it's all like 100% just, it's all going to be 100% based on just basically that black and white line work, then I think I may consider going back to doing it analog, just because when you compare, if I could get that other one back again, yeah, just because when you compare the line work of hand-drawn stuff compared to the digital, I just generally feel like the hand-drawn feels a lot more alive to me. Feels a lot more fluid, and I think I just like it a little bit better. So I don't know. Moral to the story: you could basically go either way. Try them both out, see which one you like. But now, so back over here to our regular video camera. So like, yeah, this moral of the story is try them both out, figure out which one works best for you. And you might be like me, where I don't say like, oh, I'm a traditional manga artist, or I'm a digital manga artist, or I'm a traditional artist or manga artist. Use them both. Use them both when you see fit. You know, depending on your project. You know, some projects might work better traditionally. Some projects might work better digitally. And like when I was at school, you know, I didn't always have a computer, so in order to make the most of my time, I did some digital work. I mean, I did some analog work when I didn't have a computer, and then when I got home and I had the computer, then I worked on things with the computer too. And I think that's a good way to go about it. Don't try to be like which one is better, because honestly, I don't think either one is better. It just depends on what you're trying to do. I will say that digital is becoming more and more prevalent as it is fast, and a lot of times it isn't, like I was showing you a second ago, where like I liked the way that the traditional looked better compared to my two, but you may not have a lot of time to get your work out there, especially if you actually become a full-on manga artist, you know, and like if you're a mangaka at Jump Weekly, you have to make like 20-30 pages every week. You don't have a lot of time to do that. That's why, well, actually a lot of people they get assistants and stuff. But then maybe if you were an illustrator or whatnot, and you had to do an illustration all by yourself, no assistants or anything, within like 2-3 days, you know, sometimes it's going to be a lot faster to use the computer. It could, of course, if you don't know how to use a computer, then it could actually end up taking you longer. So it all depends person to person. I just think it's becoming more prevalent on the computer because you can do a lot of things a lot faster on the computer. And one of those, and the big thing there was the tone work. Which, give me a second to just show you what tone looks like when you're not using a computer. So I'll try to show you this stuff more detailed in the future, but we're just kind of getting off topic for now. But this is basically what you use to do tone when you're working analog. And so you buy sheets like this, and they all have like different like consistencies of how many dots there are and how many non-dots there are and so forth. And if you have questions about this, ask it in the comments, and I might do a full episode about tone work, screen tone, because I know I didn't really know anything about this until I came to Japan. So it's very possible that a lot of you guys don't really know this, and they don't really know why you need it. Like why can't you just like color it with like a gray pencil, gray marker or something? And there are very specific reasons why you cannot do that if you want to become a mangaka in Japan, at least, because the rules are fairly well defined here. But so like here's a page. If I was doing this on the computer, as you could probably well imagine, you could just use your bucket tool, fill that in, fill that in, fill that in, fill that in, and then select your tone, and there you go, you got your tone work done. But when you're doing it analog, you have to have I don't have one on me right now, but you use oh, here we go. Yeah, you use a cutter like this. You know, this got me in trouble one time when I was walking down the street in Shibuya and got stopped by a cop, and they found this in my bag. Spent like 20 minutes explaining to them that this is used to draw manga. Like, how do you draw manga with a cutter? I'm like, trust me, you have to use it for the tone and everything. But it was kind of funny. But anyway, so here you go. So what you do in a nutshell, and I'll go, if you want to see more, put it in the comments, and I'll do a particular video for this. But you take this tone like this. You have to pull it out. Well, first you put it on top, like you put it on top here. I wonder if I could show you. I have no room in my apartment. I'm gonna have to really clean my apartment so that I can start showing you this stuff more detailed. But for now, you know what? We'll do it right here. So, come on a little closer. Come on. All right. This is not the best way to do tone, but I just want to show you real quick how it's done. Usually you want to actually have like a real table and stuff, but here we go. So, say I wanted to put some tone on top of this this part of his little outfit or whatever. Well, that means that first I put this on top here. Hopefully you can see this somewhat. Then you get your little cutter, and let me find, I don't really want to waste that big section of tone, but use this one. Okay. And go ahead and cut out an area that we think would work for this, what we want to do. And once again, if you want to know more, I'll do a more detailed one where I explain exactly what the thought process is going into this and everything. But there you go. Now we got this little piece of tone that we can then put on top of here. There we go. And I'm not sure how well this is picking up. Let me see if I can get some more light on here. Alright, well, this is not helping much, but Now, so I'm not sure how this is picking up, but you may be able to see that it's going outside the lines. So what we do now is we go with our cutter one more time on top of these lines, and we have to go and cut these out. Let's fast forward this a bit. Alright, there we go. Cut that out. Throw this one away or put it back on our little sheet. Push that down. And now we have tone, where before we did not. Tone, no tone. So that's basically how you do tone work by hand. And it's not that bad. I mean, it could be enjoyable, but when you think about if you want to do this in tone, this in tone, this in another tone, maybe you have like 3 different types of tone that you want to put on here, it can add up quite quickly to be a lot of work that on the computer would be click, 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 you know? So, I mean, it's up to you. And what did I want? Anything else? Okay, so, and then the other thing about tone too, you know, I'm really going on too far. I could keep talking forever. I really should break this up into other videos. But the other thing that happens with tone is that the other thing that you do with tone, I should say, is that, say if you wanted to put like if you wanted to put some clouds in the background, well then you're gonna probably take this and you're actually gonna scratch the tone to make like a cloud or something. So you actually draw with the tone too, like this. And this is actually kind of fun once you get the hang of it. You know, you kind of like do different effects with it and stuff. But it is also kind of annoying having to use a knife as your artistic tool. And once again, if you brought this to the computer, you don't have to worry about doing stuff like this. You can just draw white on top of it. Basically, is what it feels like you're doing on a computer. Basically, you just use the eraser tool, and you can just erase parts of the tone. Like basically the same. It's basically just like working with color in like Photoshop. So it becomes a lot easier. I don't really. I know you can do tone in Photoshop. I didn't really like it. I find it easier to do tone work with. Not sure if you can really see this little cloud I'm trying to make, but like I actually prefer, if you're going to do digitally, I don't recommend Photoshop. One, the line work is really not that great. It's really hard to do good line work in Photoshop because it generally has different levels of like opacity and stuff that gets and there. It's really not made for line work the way that you're just gonna be doing it in Manga. So if you were going to do digital, I recommend software like Manga Studio, Comic Studio, Clip Studio. They're all basically the same company, but you know. And you know what? I think I'll probably do my next video. I'll go through those software so you can see exactly what you can do with those and why I think that software is a lot better than Photoshop. But so there you go. You got your little cloud in the background, or oppositely. You could also this knife is already dull. So the other thing that happens when you're doing it by hand is you have to keep sharpening your knife. You have to keep buying new tones because you run out. It costs you a good amount of money. I mean, obviously, if you're using the computer, buying a good computer and getting the software and all that is going to cost you money. But you know, you don't have to go shopping as often to like upgrade your tools. Yeah, but there's our little clouds in the background, and that's tone work in a nutshell. And I think you can kind of imagine how you would do it on the computer, but I'll go ahead and do another video on that. Probably next up. I want to show you the pages like I was saying earlier, but I'm hoping I could get some people to help me do the voice work for it or something. I don't want to just show it to you. I want to actually like give you the story. So, and they're all written in Japanese at the moment, so I have to figure out exactly how to do that. But yeah, so as soon as I figure that out, I'll start showing the pages. And in the meantime, I'll just do some random topics that you may be interested in. So anything you want to hear about, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll get to work on that. So, damn, it's already 38 minutes of footage time, so I'm going to obviously have to edit this quite thoroughly to bring it down to something, to a nice bite-sized portion. But that's all for this episode of the manga, the new and improved Manga Workshop series. If you have a cool name that you think would be more appropriate than calling it the Manga Workshop series, then go ahead and put it in the comments, and if you win, maybe if you have a really good idea and I end up using it, maybe I'll send you like a nib pen or something, who knows. Yep, so that's all for this time. Take care and keep drawing. Yoshiki.